Let's look at another attacking game by Mikhail Tal. This is the game Tal Milev from the Olympiad in 1958, and this is after the move queen to c7. Black just played queen to c7. I'll have you notice that the black king can't castle because he's moved already. So the question is, should we be attacking, should we be maneuvering, or should we be defending? I want to point out to you that there are three factors in our evaluation. There's more than that, but there's three main ones, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. The three main factors to evaluate whether you should be attacking, maneuvering, or defending. The first factor is material. So who's ahead in material? So we can look at the board and see that material is equal. If material is equal, that's one vote for maneuver. So white should be maneuvering. It goes like this. If you're behind in material, you probably want to be attacking because otherwise you're just going to lose. So that's one vote for maneuvering. But there's three factors. The second factor is mobility. We talk about development. Let's take a look at the development. White has developed the knight, the queen, the bishop. He's castled, so that's 4. And it's his turn to move, so we'll give him a 5 tempi. Tempi is T-E-M-P-I. It's the plural of tempo. Tempo, for you musicians out there, means time. And this idea of tempi is a very important one in chess. It's an important word to know for chess. White has 5 tempi, whereas black only has 2 pieces developed, the queen and the bishop. So white is ahead by 3. And so that is a big vote for attack. When you have that big of a lead in development, that's a huge lead in development. That means you should go on the attack. But let's just be clear, this idea of development and tempi, it's not scientifically accurate because what we're really talking about is mobility. And mobility means how many legal moves do I have? So how many legal moves does white have in this position? And how many legal moves does black have in this position? I will spare you the torture and tell you that white has 44 legal moves and black has 35 legal moves. But we use this idea of tempo and development as a kind of shorthand because no sane person would count how many legal moves you have in every position. So we just kind of eyeball it and look at the position and see if we're ahead in development, and that's kind of a shorthand for if we have a lead in mobility. And white has a huge lead in mobility, so that's one vote to attack. So we have so far one vote to maneuver, and we have one vote to attack. And there's a third factor. So the third factor we look at is king's safety. Whose king is safer? Well, white's king is nice and tucked away here, and he's defended by this brick wall of pawns, whereas the black king is in the middle of the board. So white has a big advantage in king's safety. So that is another vote to attack. Another point I want to make here is when your king is safe and the other king is in the middle of the board, I want the center to vanish. And what that means is I want the center pawns to go away. I just want that whole center to vanish. And that way I open up lines and diagonals towards the enemy king. So the white king is safe and the black king is stuck in the middle. And so I want the center to vanish. So Tal came up with a great move, a pawn sacrifice, pawn to d5. Black can't take back with the c pawn because his queen on c7 is unprotected, so he's got to take with the e pawn. And now look, this opens up the e file against the king. And the next move was just absolutely fearless, a brilliant move. Tal didn't retreat with his knight, he didn't run away, he played rook on f to e1, aiming the rook directly at the king. So this is another one of the type of attacking moves we talked about, and that is bring all of your pieces into the game. It's so important. So in the game, black ran away with his king, but let's just take a quick look to see what happens if he takes the knight. Then the queen takes back with check, and let's say the bishop blocks, and then bishop to c5, and white is going to get his piece back. The black king can't castle, and white still has a big attack, and this is just going to be devastation. So what did black do? He played king to d8, Another thing we look for in our games is when the enemy pieces are on the same line. So here you can see the queen and the king are on the same diagonal. So if white could play like bishop to b6, that would pin the queen to the king. So what did he do? He played queen to b3, and now the threat is bishop to b6. Black doesn't have time to take the knight on e4, or else he would lose his queen. Well, in the game, he played a tactical blunder. He played pawn to c5. But let's go back and try and find a better defense. King to c8. But the computer says that white is still winning. This is a computer line. He saves his knight now, knight to c3. The queen comes back to d8. Rook to c1. And there's a threat to d5 because of the pin along the c file. So king to b8. Bishop to b6, queen to d7, and a nice move, knight takes d5. After pawn takes d5, the next move is kind of hard to find. White is totally winning. The reason the next move is hard to find is because it's not natural to take a piece out of the hot zone. So we talked about this attacking zone on the king, and you can see that white has a big advantage there. And so naturally, we don't want to move the queen out of the hot zone. Kind of goes against the grain. But here, if I could play queen to g3 check, that would be killer. Problem with that, though, is that black can just simply block that. So the next move is nice. It's a deflection. Rook to e8 check, deflecting the queen away, and then queen to g3 check will just be game over. But in the game he played pawn to c5. We said that was a tactical mistake. Let's look at why. The pawn on c5 is attacked twice and defended twice. And so that's a hazard. And the bishop on b7 is attacked once and defended once, so that's a hazard. So we can say the queen is overloaded. So he played knight takes c5, bishop takes, queen takes c5, and queen takes b7. In this position, black resigned. Not only is his rook under attack, but rook on a1 to d1 is coming, and there's not much black can do about it. So let's just do a quick review of what we've learned. So when we're deciding if we should go on the attack, there are three main factors, and those factors are material, who's ahead in material, mobility, and the third factor is king safety. So remember to look for these signposts in your games to see if you should go on the attack.